Bismillah wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. So inshallah we will continue our classes in React. So what did we discuss yesterday? So did you revise what we discussed yesterday? Okay, what about Javed Akhi? Documentation, okay. Tayyib, inshallah. So let me start the server. So let me also open the documentation page, React useEffect, okay, free code camp. Use state is there, but useEffect. Okay, so actually this is API reference. Did you read this one? Huh? Akhi Javed. Or idhar Akhi? Oh. Then what we'll do? Huh? Then we will continue inshallah. Okay. So the point here is this is API reference. We discussed the difference, right? Difference between API reference and normal documentation. In API reference, you will see all the details. Generally, this is for people who already have an understanding about that concept actually. Okay. So this is for advanced use cases, like you have to come here. So if you read this, you may not understand properly. So what you should do, you should go to the normal section. I think they have it here, right? Synchronize a component with the extension system. Yeah. Yeah, so they have section here, okay. Huh? Yeah, it's your wish, if it's good you can read inshallah, you can see. Okay, so anyway, the thing is they have an section here, okay, for this useEffect. So you should read this first, okay, to understand the concept properly. As for the API reference, then that is for advanced use cases, okay. If you want to know, because in this section if you see, you won't find all the details actually, all the minute and unimportant details you may not find here. So you should first read this, okay. Anyway, we will continue with our thing. So what we discussed yesterday was we introduced this hook, right, useEffect hook, and we said that it is used to subscribe, right. Actually this is only one way of explaining actually, because useEffect, right, it can do a lot of stuff actually. One of that stuff is like subscription, okay, or tracking the change in a particular variable, okay. So you may not even find this definition in the documentation, okay, and the reason is because like I told you, it can be used for many purposes. So to get started with, I gave you this kind of introduction, okay. So it is used to subscribe, okay, to changes in variable, whether it may be state variable or it may be props, okay. So what we'll do is, let me clear this up, and let me just revise and refresh what I told. So what I do here is, okay, as you can see, what I do, I'm going to have a count, okay, count set count, okay, and the initial value would be 0, okay. So there's a variable called count. This is a state variable, okay, and what I'll do here is I'll just show it here. So let me have a division here. So I'm going to print this count here, okay. So I would say the count is count. So you understand the syntax, right? Template neutral. Yeah. So there's a count here, and I'm showing the printing here. Okay, so I'm displaying that on the screen. So I'm going to have a button here. Okay, so there's a button, it says increase. Okay, so let me save this. Okay, why it's taking too much time to make a small change? Anyway, so as you can see, we say the count is this, and there's a button here. Okay, right now if you see, if I click on the button, nothing is happening, right? The reason is why? Because we have not we're not handling any event, right? Like when we click on that button, we have to handle that event, right? Only then we can do something meaningful, right? So currently if you see, there is no event handler attached for this button. So what I'll do is I'm going to attach a click event handler. Okay, so on click, handle click. So there should be a function called handle click. Okay, that is not defined yet, so let me define that function here. Const handle click is going to be, so this is a function, okay, that will be called whenever I click on this button. So inside this button, what I'll do, I'll just do what? I'm going to increase the count. Okay, type, so set count plus 1. Okay, can I do like this? Count plus? No, right? Why? Yeah, you should not mutate. Yeah, you should not mutate state variables. You can't change them directly or edit them directly. You have to use this special function, okay, for that. So set count plus. Sorry, count plus 1. Type. So what this will do is when I click on this, it is going to increase the count for me, right? So let me save that and see here. You can see, right, the count is increasing. Okay, so how is it happening? Initially the count will be 0, so that will be displayed here, right? So whenever I click on this button, I'm going to do what? I'm going to increase the count by 1. So this variable is going to change, right? And whenever the state variable changes, the component will re-render, right? So this will be executed again, actually. Okay, I mean the entire thing will be executed once again. So when you come to this line, right, you'll be using the latest value here. Okay, that is why you can see the change in the screen. Okay, type. So this is a very basic setup, right? Now let us do one thing, which is I want to do something which is whenever the count changes, right, I want to print in the console as well. Okay, type. So what I want to do is I want to track this variable. Okay, I want to track the change in this count, and whenever that changes, I want to print in the console. Okay, type. So further what I can do, I can use useEffect, right? So let me use that. So useEffect. So if you see, useEffect is a function. Okay, this is a function, right? We are calling that function, right? Just like you are calling useState here, you're also calling useEffect here. It takes 2 arguments. The first argument is a function that you want to run. Okay, or you can say this is the effect that you want to run. Okay, this is like effect, right? Like this function will be run, right, whenever the dependency changes or whenever that variable changes, this function will be run, right? So we can say that's an effect. Okay, so can you understand why this name, this specific name, useEffect? So whatever thing, it's like a side effect. Okay, so you want to use that effect. Okay, so that's why this naming convention. Okay, so useEffect will take 2 arguments. The first argument is the function that you want to run, and the second argument is the dependency array. Okay, so I want to run this function whenever the count changes, right? So I want to declare count here, type, and here I can do whatever I want. Actually, it's not just like printing in the console. Okay, this is a very simple task, right? It can be anything actually. It's like you can make some request to some backend server to get some data. Okay, here you can do so. Actually it's a very good question actually. The reason why we see, the thing is, you can put okay, but a lot of times, right, what we want to do is we want to separate the concerns actually. Okay, let me show you now. Here we have it, right, line number 8. Okay, tayyib. Now if you see, right, this thing, right, it is kind of connected with this function now, right, this handle click, right, or to say in another word, this handle click function knows that this is going to happen, right, because it is defined in its body, right. But if you do like this, in this case, this handle click function does not have any knowledge of what's going to happen. Like, it does not have, like, this will be run okay, but the handle click function doesn't know about that, right? So that's a slight minor difference actually, and this matters. A lot of cases this kind of thing matters actually. This is like decoupling. Okay, that's called as decoupling. Decoupling means you are trying to split actually. You are trying to keep things as independent as possible, and that's a very good programming actually. If your components are decoupled, right, then that's a very good thing. Okay. If you put it here, then it's not decoupled anymore actually. This piece of logic, right, actually. So this is a very simple line, right. Let me do something which is, I'm going to do some call some function. Okay, call some function. Okay, and okay, I'm going to call some function here. Okay, perform some more logic. Okay, so I'm going to write some more lines of code here. So all these details, right, why should my handle click function be worried about these things? My function can be very simple, right. Whenever I click on there, I just have to update my count. That is my job. Okay, why would I put the other details here as well? Okay, so it's like that. So you try to keep things separate. Okay, so it's like you don't have to worry about these things actually. This can happen on the side. Okay, that's what it's like a side effect. Okay, it can run here actually. So our intention is that whenever the value changes, we want to do some task. So we can do it separately here. Okay, we can use this useEffect hook here, and we have a dedicated section of code to handle that case. So why would we should not? We don't have to put these things inside here and bother this function with unnecessary details. Okay. So that's the thing actually, and otherwise it will work as well. Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to these things. Yeah, these things, right? We'll come back to it, inshallah. What happens if the array is empty, and what happens if this is not even the second argument is not even passed? We'll come back to those things, inshallah. But we'll do it step by step, okay? Inshallah. So what I'm doing here is, I'm just going to do what? I'm just going to do console.log type. So what this means is that whenever that count changes, I'm going to run some logic, okay, or I'm going to perform some task which is printing that in the console. Okay, now let me save this and see here. See, as I click the button, right, I'm also seeing that in the console. Reason is because this value changes. When I click the button, this value is going to change, and since we have subscribed to that value, right, this function will be running whenever that changes. Okay, and that is why you are seeing that in the console. Okay, every time. Type. Okay, so this is more like a revision to what we learned yesterday. Now something that's interesting actually. Why are you seeing this 0 here? Like, I didn't even click on the button, right, but still you are seeing it here, and the reason is because this useEffect, right, will run at least once actually, no matter what. This function, right, that you have passed here, yes, even if you take this count out actually, see, in this case I have removed the dependency array, right, there's no dependency here actually. Even in this case, right, it will run at least once actually. That is why, see, actually two zeros, I think it's because of development environment. Yeah, I think I read it somewhere actually. Generally, right, it will run only once actually. Theoretically, it should be run only once. And the reason why we are seeing it 2 times is because we are in development environment, right? So I think in development, it's like that actually. But theoretically, in normal environment, in production environment, this won't happen like that. Okay, it will run only once. Okay. So the point is that whatever this function, right, this useEffect, this function will be run at least once actually. Okay. And this is the case when you have an empty dependency array. This will run exactly once. When the dependency array is empty, then the effect will run exactly once. Okay, exactly once means like exactly once throughout the entire component life cycle. Okay, that's some complex word that I have said. Let me explain that. Okay, through the entire components life cycle. Okay, so what that means is that the component has a life cycle. Okay, like just like we humans, we have a life cycle, right? We have birth, we have the age of growing and reaching puberty, getting married, having kids, becoming old, die. So that's our life cycle, right? Likewise, React components, they have their own life cycle actually. They go through various stages. Okay. And what exactly are those stages? We'll inshallah discuss those things later. For the time being, it's not necessary to learn those, but you can just remember one thing. This effect, when you have an empty array, right? When you have an empty dependency array, then that effect will run exactly only once through the entire life cycle. Okay. So as long meaning beginning okay, let me introduce you two terms. Okay, one is mounting component, mounting the component, mounting of the component, unmounting of the component. So these are two stages, okay, of the from the component life cycle. Okay, one is the mounting. The meaning of mounting is when the component is first rendered. Actually, you can think like that. Okay. Initially, right, when you reload, right, it will be empty, right? Everything will be empty, right? As you can see, like in the HTML, right, you'll only have an empty root element, right? What happens is that React will come and render this for you, right? It will start rendering each and every component, right? So it will render that in the screen, right? Right? So that is called mounting, okay? So that is a mounting of the component. Unmounting means removing that from the screen, okay? Meaning, for example, let's say that there is a button, okay, there's a button. If I click on that, I'm going to go to a different page, okay, different page in the same app. Okay, in that case, this page will be gone, right? So these components will be unmounted actually. They'll be removed from the screen, okay. So that is called as unmounting, okay. So mounting means you put the component on the screen for the first time. Okay, unmounting is you are removing that from the screen. Okay. So when the dependency array is empty, right? So these are two stages actually from the component life cycle. There are other stages as well, but we won't think about that right now. So when you keep the dependency array empty, then that effect will run exactly that effect will run exactly once through the entire component's life cycle. Okay. Meaning right from its mounted until it is unmounted. Like mounting is like birth, okay, unmounting is like death. So in between there will be various stages, right? Through the entire stage, there's only one, it will run only once actually. Okay. Yes, see, if I click on here, the count is increasing, but there's nothing happening on the console, right? The reason is because, now? One minute. See, I have refreshed the page now. These two zeros, right? Just consider them as one, okay? Because I told you it's running in development mode. So it is twice, okay, but it's only one actually. Theoretically, it should be one, okay. Apart from that, if I click on increase, right, the count is increasing here, but you don't see any message in the console, right? The reason is because the dependency array is empty. Like I have not subscribed to that count variable there. Okay. So, and you can see, right? I mean, what happens when we change the variable? What are we? What are we? Yes, this function will be run only once. Okay, and through the entire component's life cycle, right? And when does that run exactly once actually? It will run one time, right? When will it run? Namahi, huh? Afwan akhi? The effect won't run, that's the point, akhi. Because even if it is empty, right, it will run only once exactly. That's what I'm saying. If you keep it minimum, it will run one time, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is why you are seeing it here actually, okay. This 0 here, right, you are seeing because it is running only once minimally. At least once it will run. After that it won't run because it is empty, yeah. Yes, exactly, yeah. Whatever code that you write here, akhi, whether it be your own code or console.log, it may be calling some other function. This entire piece of code, right, that will run only once actually, okay. Simple. After that it won't run. The reason is because the array is empty actually. So it will run only once, and when that is, that one time, right, it is after the component finishes mounting, okay. Like after the component comes to the screen for the first time, after that it will run, okay. That one time is after the component finishes mounting. So that's the point here actually. So here I have saved it, right, and when I click on here, you can see nothing is printed in the console, okay, even though the value is changing. And what happens when the value changes, akhi? When we change the value, right, when the state changes, what happens? Component will re-render. So these lines will be executed actually, 4, 5, 6, everything will be executed, okay. But still, why you don't see anything here? The reason is because this function won't be executed actually. That will be skipped, okay, because the array is empty. Okay, and keep this in mind. One more thing, which is when we say re-render, right, the entire thing will be executed, right. So even line number 4 will be executed once again, okay, but the value will not be reset to 0, okay. Like what I'm saying is, when we change the value, right, initially it is 0, so if I click on that increase button, the value will change. So once the value changes, it will again come and execute all the entire code here, okay. So line number 4 will be executed once again, but that doesn't mean that the value will be reset to 0 again. No, it's not like that, okay. That is only for the initial time. Huh? Yes. Actually, that is the thing, right? The purpose. What is the purpose of use state actually? It has to remember stuff, right? It has to remember between re-renders, right? Let me show you one more thing, which is this is count, right? So what I would say is that I am having another let variable, okay. Let forgotten count is equal to 0, okay. See here, there's another variable called forgotten count, okay. And what I will do is, when I click on this button, I'm going to also increase the forgotten count. So I'll also increase the count by 1. I'm going to increase the forgotten count as well, okay. And let me do what? Let me also display the forgotten count here as well. The forgotten count is forgotten count. Let me see what happens. Initially both the count are 0, right? If I click on increase count, what's happening here? Count is increasing, but forgotten count is still 0, right? Does it mean that it was not increased? Like, does it mean that this line was not executed? No, it was executed, but it was forgotten. Let me show you now. Let me show console.log now. So what I'm doing is I'm increasing the value. Right after increasing the value, I'm going to do what? I'm going to print that, okay, and see what's in the console. See, it is 1 actually. Where is this 1 coming from? It is coming from line number 10. J is line number 10, which is this. So forgotten count was initially 0 and it was increased to 1 actually. Tayyib. But why we are seeing 0 in the screen here? Can you explain now why it's like that? Huh? Yeah, so what caused that memory loss? Which function? Yeah. Now, Akhi, but okay, Taib, that's a kind of close answer. To be exact and precise, the reason is because in line number 8 we are setting the count, right? So this is a state variable, okay? So when I increase this count, right, that will do what? That will cause the component to re-render, right? Taib. So what happens is this will be okay. So first the count will be increased by 1. And this count will also be increased by 1, okay, Tayyib, and this will be printed here, console.log printed here, Tayyib, and once this function is executed, what happens after that? We have to do what? We have to do re-rendering, right, because the value changed, state variable changed, right. So the state variable changed, so React will come and execute all these lines once again. So it will come to line number 4 and it's going to do what? It's going to reset the value to 0. Okay, that is why line number 10, it was executed, okay, and that is why you are seeing 1 in the console, but you are seeing 0 in the screen, and the reason is because it is being resetted actually. Since this state variable is going to change, that is going to cause a re-render, so it will come to line number 4 and it will again set the value back to 0, even though it was changed to 1. When line number 4 is executed, due to a re-render, it will be set back to 0, and when it comes here, it's going to just display the 0 here, okay. Tayyib. So that is the difference between normal variable and state variable, okay. So to say in other words, state variables, they will be preserved between re-renders, right? For example, let me do one thing. Let me do one more thing. Count. Let me say second count, okay. Set second count, okay, that's going to be, let's say, 5, okay. Tayyib. Now what I will do is, let me do one thing. So let me delete this line here, okay. There's one click, so there's handle, second click. What I will do here, set second count would be second count plus 1. So now I have two state variables, okay, count and second count. Tayyib. What I will do here, the second count is second count, okay, and this is for increasing the first count, this is for increasing second count, okay, this is handle. So it's the same thing, okay, I'll just duplicate it, okay. So there's one more state variable, okay. And if you click on the second button, that variable will be updated. Now let me save this and see what happens to the screen. Okay, I kept that to 5, right. Let me keep this to 0, okay. as you can see, both are what? Both are 0, right? And so what about this console statement? Let me remove this as well. So what I'm doing is I'm increasing the count here. This is first count, and as I increase the second count, right? What about the first count? Is it getting resetted? No, right? No, because that's not a normal variable. That's a state variable. So that is remembered. Previously in the forgotten count case, it was getting resetted, right? Because it's a normal variable. So when React re-renders, right, that line number 4 was executed, so it was set back to 0. Okay. But in this case, both the variables are what? Both are state variables. So what happens is between re-renders, right, that value is preserved or that value is remembered. Okay. That is why changing one value doesn't affect the other value. Okay. So both are remembered. Okay. This is, I think we spoke more about useState today, actually, more than useEffect. Anyway, Tayyib, that should have increased your understanding a lot, actually. Tayyib. Now let us come back to useEffect. Okay, so what I was saying here, I was saying is after the combo finishes mounting. Okay. Yeah. So what I just said was, if you keep the dependency array empty, right, then that will run exactly only once. Okay. Tayyib. That will run exactly once, actually, and whatever value that you put there, if you put some value there, then that will run for the first time. Okay. And also whenever the dependency array changes, any one of the element in the dependency array changes. You don't have any effect, actually. I don't think it's even possible or not, but I think you don't have any effect, actually, if you do like that. Okay. It should be from state or props. Okay. And if you put you can experiment what happens. I have not tried that, but the thing is, it should be from state or props, actually. Okay. That is a normal usage pattern. Okay. So that's one thing. So this will run exactly once. Okay. And what happens? Okay, let me do one thing here. Let me say console.log. Okay, second, this is count, right? Okay, I'm printing the count here. Okay. So I would say, okay, the first count is, okay. So what does it do? What does it do now? This will run whenever the count changes, right? The first count changes, right? So you can see in the console, actually. So initially the first count is 0, okay? And as I increase the count, first count, it is changing. It is getting printed, okay? But if I increase the second count, it's not getting printed. Why? Yeah, because that doesn't depend on second count, actually. So even though the component is re-rendering, right, it will re-render, right, when we increase the second count as well, the component will re-render or not? What? Yes. Yes. Whenever any state variable or any prop changes, the component will re-render, okay? So the point here is, as you can see, okay, so as I increase the second count, does the component re-render or not? The component will re-render. Of course it will, because second count is a state variable, right? So it is changing, so the component will re-render. The print, the reason is because this code will not be executed, okay? And so that's the point here, actually. Even though the component re-renders, this function will not be executed. This is a function, right? This function, it will not be executed. The reason is because that is not included. Yes, only when the count changes. Or to say another words, same prof like this. Yeah, you can use, actually. It's the same behavior, actually. It's going to do it twice, actually. everything will be yeah, you can do like that. Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah, like, yeah, that's also possible. Yeah, okay. So the point is, so I hope you understand this, right? Whenever the state or prop changes, right, the entire component will re-render, but however this function will not run actually unless if that re-render is caused by this variable here. Okay, type. So this is use effect. Okay, now let us, so we spoke about these cases, right, in which okay, in this case if you see you have only one array, right? Now if you see second count as well, right? So in the dependency array, right, we also have the second count of the dependency array. Okay, now let's see what happens. See, if I increase the first count, it's printing, right? If I increase the second count, again it's printing. The reason is because now that is included in the dependency array. Okay, tayyib. So we saw namahe. Value will not change. Yeah, value is the same. Count value didn't change. So that's why you see it's the same message actually. It's getting printed again and again. 6, 7, 8. It's the same message. Okay, because that value didn't change, right? Yeah. Tayyib. Okay, so we'll just look at the last scenario, which is when we don't pass this argument at all. This is the last scenario. We will finish with this, inshallah. If you don't pass any dependency array, it will run during every re-render. So it is the same actually. If you put like this, right, it is the same as not putting any use effect at all actually. Let's see what happens in this case. See here. Now it 2 times running now. As I click on here, if I click here as well, again it's running. So whenever the component re-renders, this code will run if you don't put any dependency array at all. So it's the same actually, whether if it's like this, right, if it's an empty dependency array, then it is the same as not using any use effect at all. These both are the same actually, right? Because anyway line number 60 will be executed, right, whenever the component re-renders. So it's the same behavior actually. If you don't give any dependency array, then that will run every time. Okay, so here it's, if you see, it's running 2 times actually. So that's a slight difference, I guess. Yeah, but it's very similar, right? If you keep it, it's running 1 time actually, and so you get the point here. So yes, if you don't put any, if you don't give any dependency array, then that component will, this thing will run during every re-render. Okay, and if you give an empty array, it will run exactly once. That is during the mounting of the component, when the component is appearing on the screen for the first time. Okay, and if you give more than one element, then it will run during the first time and also whenever that variable changes. Okay, any one of those dependency array changes. So this is use effect actually, and I think there's one more thing, which is the cleaning function, because this is a function, right? This function can return another function actually. Okay, this function can return another function, and that has a use case actually. This will do some job, but right now we won't bother about this. Okay, inshallah, we'll learn about this later, inshallah. Okay, and even this returning function has some stuff it can do. Okay, and it can be used for some very good use cases, but for the time being we'll just neglect this, inshallah. So that is use effect, inshallah. Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue. Okay, so today what I suggest you is just listen to this lecture once again fully and try to grasp this concept well. Okay, use effect concept, and if you get time, you read the documentation as well. Inshallah, we'll see tomorrow.